The Major League Baseball trade deadline's come and gone. Here to parse the players, the buyers and sellers, who's tanking, and who's now an instant World Series contender is Spin Rate Jays podcast co-host Drew Fairservice. Drew, thanks for joining us this morning. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Let's start under the home dome with the Jays coming into deadline day. The consensus seems to be that their wants and needs were flipping between starting pitching, bullpen, and lefty hitting. There was no big splash, minimal cash and players were spent. But the bullpen seems to be pretty stacked. Did they do enough with Bass and Pop and Merrifield and White?
I think they did some nice, shrewd acquisitions. They addressed need in a sensible way, which isn't always the most fun. They probably could have used a bit of a higher impact player in the bullpen in particular. This is a bullpen that has been effective, but also hasn't been represented by a lot of expenditure. They haven't really spent a lot. They haven't splashed the cash, like you said, or used some of their prospects to get a top reliever. So it would have been maybe nice to see them do that. There were a few names out there, but I think that that addressing the bullpen is key. Especially if they are able to make a run in the playoffs, they can also then continue to bolster that bullpen by taking a couple of their starters, guys that have been in the rotation. You see Kikuchi, for example, who could be a good fit potentially in a playoff bullpen.
Right. Let's talk more about Kikuchi. He starts today at noon. He came back for his first start off the IL for about 3 weeks. Very good performance. He had 4 good midseason starts. Velocity and location was better. He found the plate. So is he reliable enough in your estimation, Drew, to ride as that 5th starter after Barrios, Gosman, Manoah, Stripling, or does Mitch White maybe assume that spot?
I wouldn't be surprised if they use all 6, to be honest. I think that you would be very reluctant to trust Yusei Kikuchi too much. You need to see more from him. They only let him go through the lineup twice. I think he only pitched 4 innings in his last time out. It was very good. He was throwing strikes. He was aggressive with his fastball, which is huge for him, a guy who was really having a hard time finding the plate, throwing the ball all over the place. So if they can, use Mitch White almost like they've used Ross Stripling in the past, that could be a really powerful addition in terms of lessening the load because of sometimes Kikuchi has having these short starts. So the idea of them going with 6 starters to keep a guy like Alek Manoah, who is still very young and relatively inexperienced, keep him fresh, Kevin Gosman and his ankle. I wouldn't be surprised to see them work through 6 of the starters and then think about who is able to be effective and who might be able to swing into that bullpen role, as I said, come October.
Let me get your take on the Padres' mega deal for Soto. They're 12 back of the Dodgers, likely not going to catch them. They got a 2-game pad on the wild card position. Does he make them an instant World Series contender? Is he that generational, that singular, that good?
Absolutely. There's a reason that the Padres and all teams or smart teams load up in their farm system. It's the reason they develop so much talent so they can either get a player like this, which comes along, like you said, once a generation, or they can pull off a humongous blockbuster trade like this. He's an incredible player. The comparable names you hear used around him are Mickey Mantle and Ted Williams, like one of the true greats of the game. Yeah, not bad. Tons of power, tons of patience. And has showed a good track record of staying on the field. So those are all incredible things. He slots into the middle of their order as that huge bat. He fits in anybody's order, but the Padres in particular, who have a lot of guys who really like to swing the bat, kind of like the Blue Jays. So he would have been great in Toronto, obviously, but the Blue Jays just aren't quite set up to make a big deal like that. It makes the Padres a team you don't want to face in a short series. While they're, like you said, they're unlikely to catch the Dodgers. Their lineup is incredibly formidable now. Yeah. They've made a number of upgrades to the bullpen. Getting former Blue Jay Brandon Drury even as a nice little piece of business to just add some depth and really make them a scary, scary team to come out of the National League.
Speaking of big deals, Soto, Vladdy, Ohtani, Judge, these guys are all going to be going for max mega deals on the near horizon. I can't wait to see how much money these young guys are going to command. Hey, Drew Fairservice, thanks for your time. Appreciate it.